What was your honeymoon like? I know you guys bought a new car. Can you tell me about the car?
It was a 1950 Studebaker Champion.
And I'm always looking for those. Whenever we travel, I always love to see
I
some of the
had
shows.
pictures of it
And where did you go on your honeymoon?
all through the Salt Lake City, Yellowstone Park, all of those western states, and then back through the northern part of Minnesota, Wisconsin, and down into Indiana, where Grandpa had an aunt and uncle living. And we stopped in Milwaukee and saw his sister Ann Claire, and then back to Dodgeville.
What year was that?
That would have been 1950.
Okay. So you were in the golden classic days of the Americana travel. I bet you that's why you guys kept traveling for so long.
We were able to rent what now they would call motels for $4 and $4.50 a night.
Wow.
Yeah, that was all they cost.
That's amazing. I often think of you when we're traveling, and especially when we're at Route 66. Do you remember what Route 66 was like back then?
Oh, sure, it had all those little places you could buy jewelry, rugs, all that kind of, a lot of them.
And you guys traveled a lot your whole life, as long as Grandpa could drive. And
Yeah.
I know he didn't want to give up his license. It was
No, he didn't want to give,
for the life of him.
and he kind of forgot that he had given it up, because he would say, well, where's the car? I said, remember, we took that and sold it back to the dealer. Well, we had 2 Kias. Where's the other one? I said, we traded it in on the second one. And he would say, well, how are we going to go to church then? We don't have a car. But we had good friends that
Yeah.
picked us up, took
Well,
us to church.
I know some of my early road trips were with you guys too, going back and forth between Texas and to family reunions up in Wisconsin and Minnesota. And I think that's definitely part of where my love of travel came from.
Right.
Adventures and stopping and picnicking and
We never could have done it if he hadn't redone that old school bus. He put bunks in it, we had a stove, we had a refrigerator, we had water in it. The kids were piled on top of each other, but they all got to go. We wanted to take kids on vacation, and we knew that we could not afford to go and use motels with 8 kids. It was partly reconverted for camping, and he finished the rest. After we made one trip, we knew we were going to make one after the other, every year. And then he also used it in the fall when there was deer hunting. He'd take about 5 or 6 guys that he worked with from the packing house, and they'd go out to Wyoming, New Mexico, wherever, deer hunting with it. So they used it that way too. We made one trip that was really great. We drove down into Mexico on the eastern side of Mexico, across Mexico, up into California, all the way up the west coast, into Canada, and across Canada to Minnesota, and then back down.
wow.
That's incredible.
And that was wonderful. I remember one time he said, I'm getting so tired, you're gonna have to drive for a while. Well, I never drove a bus, and that bus, it must have had it had about 8 speeds at least in it. You'd have to keep shifting it, He said, you will have, he said, either that or we're gonna have to stop. So I said, well, I'll try it. So I drove, and we came into a place where they were repairing the roads, and I had to drive it through all that crazy road repair, but it worked out.
Yeah, I know. How long did you guys have that school bus?
Oh gosh, 15 years probably.
Wow. I know Mom said she got left at a national park once.
She got left at the park in Dubuque.
Oh,
When
really?
we first moved there, that would have been 1965, and she was not quite 3. And we went there to picnic one night, because it seemed like it wasn't real nice in the summer. It was before her birthday though, so I know she wasn't 3. All of a sudden, a real bad thunderstorm came up, and we were eating, and I said, okay, you kids, everybody pick up something, get in the car. We had a station wagon. We have to go home. we got home and I said, oh my gosh, we don't have Linda.
Oh my goodness, and it was storming.
And it was storming. So Grandpa got right back in the car and he drove up to this table spot that we had. And there stood Linda crying and waving her arms, you know. But she stayed where she belonged.
Well, that's good at least.
Yeah,
She
yeah,
didn't
she
wander
did.
away.
And of course we left Lois on another trip.
Oh, really?
Yeah. We had the toilet in the bus,
Mhm.
but you had to empty that, you know,
Right.
at the gas stations or the motels or
Mhm.
whatever. So we tell them every time we stop for gas, everybody goes to the bathroom.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that was fine. Everybody went to the bathroom. I said, everybody back on the bus. We've got to get going because we want to hit another place today. And we were about 10 miles down the road, and I got putting things where I said, where's Lois? And I think it was Mary Ann said, she's not here. So Grandma turned around, went back to the gas station where we had bought gas.
Mm-hmm.
And Lois was standing there, hi. I guess she knew we'd come that far. But can you imagine doing that now? Somebody would pick them up.